Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I'm going to attempt to be diplomatic and address the issue that has somewhat resonated with many of my comrades that I've spoken with over the past couple of days. And this is in regards to what we're going to entitle Dropping the Flag. Many of us who come from Los Angeles or California in general, we know that we come from an environment that's permeated with gang culture. And that gang culture has sort of carved out a lane in which young men at some point in their lives choose to travel. That choice usually being made by teenagers, sometimes even preteens, right? It's being made by people who barely have cognitive faculties to even think out of a paper bag, number one. That's why when you study what's criminal justice, they tell you that they consider Crips and Bloods street gangs, youth gangs. Youth gangs because usually, on the average, young men tend to grow out of foolery as they become young men and take on more responsibility of life. That said, got a bar of a recent interview that went on to suggest that when people drop their flag to become Muslim or Christian or whatever, right, that in some type of way that they're punking the game or they're PCing up, going into protective custody. Now that's very inflammatory language for people with my background, coming from a tribal background, who actually did make that decision to drop the flag like so many others, right? There's two types. Some trying to keep carrying the flag and becoming Muslim, and that's a conflict. That's a conflict. And our dear brother, Hannibal, known to the world as Big U, was a victim of that, straddling the fence. In fact, I can remember when I paroled, because he paroled before me, when I went to meeting a few times, I had to navigate between so many, 60s that, I can barely have a word with him in the meantime, in between time. And I ain't with that, I'm no one's personality worshiper, right? That's my comrade, and I wished him well and so on and so forth, right? But, so there's the ones who try and maintain their ties with the tribe, and that's commendable and respectable for only one reason, and that's to call them to Islam. If you're not calling them to Islam, then they calling you to something, right? So that's the dichotomy, that's the tightrope that one walks, right? Many of us want to be, tight and affiliated with, past comrades, but those past comrades being caught up in the lifestyles that are not congruent with our faith is problematic. So that's one thing I want to say, is that the notion of someone dropping the flag and that being a PC move, I'm challenging that. And I'm challenging it firmly, right? If I was to say that, someone from Hoover deciding that they're not going to be Crips no more and they're going to go back to being criminals, that they doing that to avoid the smoke and the politics of being Crips, right? You would consider that disrespectful, wouldn't you, right? Well, in the same way, that's kind of tampering on the sacred for a Muslim, right? Because there's many of us from these tribes and communities in Los Angeles that have become Muslims, right? Like you found out. You know what I'm saying? There's so many others. Sometimes you go up to Way and find out your big homie that had that rep and was doing woo-wop, he a Muslim now. Or you go up there and find out he tried to, stay down with the gang life and walk off that L and that kickstand, and he laying up with a punk. Yeah. So if that's within the gangster code, you know what I'm saying, you can have it, right? So yeah, hanging up the flag is simply breaking the contract with the shaitan, because gang life, cripping and blooding, thugging, all that is a contract with the shaitan, and the shaitan makes evil fair seeming to you gradually. No one starts out as an evil individual when they first join the gang as a youth. But because of the minions of shaitan who seek to enforce the contract on you, the peer group, it only wants to affirm more negative, more satanic, more diabolical behavior. And I seen the gradual progression as one who was involved. I can remember when we start referring to ourselves as evil, diabolical, you see what I'm saying, notorious, and all these terms that we was using as pronouns and descriptions for ourselves, right? Taking on that energy, right? The OGs at that time was saying these youngsters is calling themselves dogs and cats and lizards and alley cats, and and that's what we was behaving like. So when any young man reaches to the point in his life where he can discern, you know what I'm saying, truth from falsehood, and he decides to break the contract with shaitan, that is not a PC move. In fact, remaining in the contract with shaitan is more of a cowardice move, in my opinion, because there's things required of a man. This street code that very few even live up to in the long run, right? At some point, you grow up and become a grown man. And the larger fraternity doesn't dictate to you the moves you're going to make as a man. Okay? If you want a family and a legacy to leave, other than the ignorance and the treachery and debauchery of a gang life, right? Then you got to stand on something other than that, because gangs don't have no values. Gangs don't have no values worthy of anything redemptive. There's nothing redemptive about or value. There's no value that they bring to our community. Why do we even entertain the notion that they represent the whole? Gangs do not represent the whole of the so-called black community. They're a very small part of the black community, in fact. In fact, when I was last time doing a county jail run on my way to prison, I couldn't understand why the non-affiliates was accepting the treatment that they was accepted from, 18 and 19-year-olds, or some of these non-affiliates was homeowners. You see what I'm saying? And had families, had been to college. Some of them had, been in the military. And, just because they wasn't in the gang, they were being treated like secondary citizens by these young punks. That's foul, man. That's foul, man. You want to talk about what's foul? What's foul was the Crip module and the way people treated each other, the Crip module. Want to act like they love each other and gang love and all that. Tell them about the shower shoe smackings and the homosexuality and the rapes and stuff that was going on up in them animal houses. Some want to step out of that and become civilized and stand up as a man with a stiff back, you see what I'm saying, and not resort to the base level animalistic nature, right? You call that a PC? Man, your values is twisted, brother. Your values is twisted. Yeah, and that time, let me tell you about my time on the yard with Hannibal. Hannibal did no way near avoid the 60s. They all ran up to him. Hannibal, right? You can't walk away from your gang life to the degree and extent to where it didn't exist. People gonna still call you. People still run up to me, Smokey. You know what I'm saying? Even though I had been Muslim for a couple of years. You know what I'm saying? They gonna refuse to call you. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna keep walking my walk, right? So he in no ways avoided, you know what I'm saying, the ops or anyone else, in my opinion. Yeah, but the reality is some people, all they have to offer is their very limited little perspective. You know, and they think that their perspective is somehow law. But anywhere you go, man, you see what I'm saying? They're gonna be Muslims, and Muslims gonna stand firm on what they believe in. You know, and gangs and anything else, you know, and governments. You dig what I'm saying? Nothing's gonna change that, brother. You know what I'm saying? But you know, to equate that with Islam, man, with somehow seeking the protection of somebody, man. You know, the only thing that can protect you is you. The only thing that can protect you is you. You know, and if you're looking for protection, some kind of place, you know what I'm saying? You know, Islam ain't no safe haven for cowards or nothing. You know, no more than your gang is. But I tell you what, we'll protect the coward, though. We'll protect the coward. That's the difference. Yeah, because we uphold what's just, you know, where in which you go by the law of the jungle. You dig what I'm saying? And you think that, you know, whatever your whims and passions dictate to you, that you can impose that on others. You foul. You a cancer in society, man. Even thinking like that. And that's what's wrong with the youth today, man. They don't have righteous examples of their big homies, right? Who will show them a righteous way to turn away from that, wherein which, you know, you ain't got to be looked at like you some type of, you know, some type of weenie because you decided to grow up from your juvenile delinquency. And that's really all I got to say, man. I could say so much more, bro. Woo, I could say so much more, but really, it ain't even worth it. The real deal is just, you know, don't sleep. Don't sleep on that flag. Don't sleep on that flag at all. One. You know, so the notion of someone dropping the flag and that meaning they PCing up, man, I challenge that 100%, man. As a matter of fact, when I became Muslim and someone slid me a note talking about, you know, you got to push the line, whoop, 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 I slid them one right back. Yeah, I'm pushing the line. Islam. Yeah, that's the line I'm pushing. It wasn't no more conversation either, because let me tell you something, man. When I took Shahada, brother, I was resolute about the first thing that got at me, filed about my deen. They coming right out their boots. Yeah, because I'm a dying Muslim. You know, I had entered into contract with my creator, and it supersedes all created things, all man-made things, ideologies and perspectives and feelings and all that. You dig what I'm saying? And it go for family, it go for friends, ex-associates, you see what I'm saying, the future ones. When you say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, don't nothing supersede that, brother. And to somehow equate that with PC, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. That language is unacceptable. You see what I'm saying? As if someone was running for something. What they running from? Anything that you do, somebody can do to you. A man know that. A man know that. And that's all it is to it, and that's all it ever been to it. 100.